Yes. Okay, well, with that, I'd like to call to order the Board of Selectmen meeting for Monday, April 27th. Please all rise for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible. And well, with that, item number 3 is just giving a quick update. Tomorrow is our budget referendum for the town of Madison. So I just want to encourage everybody who's watching to reminder to vote tomorrow. Polls are all open from 6 a.m. until 8 o'clock tomorrow night. And District 1 is voting at the Senior Center, and that is a temporary change for 2026 due to the construction going on at Polson Middle School. So please do not go to Polson. There are signs there to tell you to go to the Senior Center, but the Senior Center is going to be the temporary location for this year for all of 2026 voting. So please get out and vote, and have your friends and family also get out tomorrow to vote. Quick update just on Academy. I'm working with the staff on some due diligence items. So at our next meeting, we'll likely talk about where we are on the septic situation and what work we're going to be conducting to address some of our questions. And thirdly, I just want to comment, I attended a press conference this morning in Hartford advocating for the town microtransit program. For 2 years, we've had a pilot program providing microtransit services for residents called the Extra Mile Program, and it serves Guilford and Madison. Funding runs out of that for that program June 30th of this year. I know that could be a very big hardship for a number of our residents who have come to rely on that program. There's a lot of pressure, I think, being put on the budget. And we're hopeful that we're going to see some additional funding to keep it going for another year. And then with the idea of making it permanent in the long run. But just want to know that there's been a lot of advocacy. We've had a lot of residents reach out about it. The town has submitted testimony to the legislature as well as the governor's office. And then I've also participated in different events to support the program. So I just want to make people aware. They can email the state legislator, the speaker, the governor's office, anybody you want to remind, please support this important program for our community. So, but it's been a great success and we hope to continue to see it move forward. So with that, then we'll move on to any liaison reports or selectmen comments. Yep.
On behalf of the Madison 200 Committee, which has been designated by the Board of Selectmen to plan events celebrating Madison's 200th anniversary, I just want to remind everybody that on the town website, there is a listing of dozens of events which have been scheduled during this year to celebrate our anniversary. So the number of events beginning very soon now. So I would encourage everybody to get familiar with that. There'll be a lot more information being pushed out, as I understand, regarding these events.
Yeah, starting in early May, we'll be putting out a lot more literature posters and things like that. I do want to highlight for people who have been volunteers in town service, the kind of town ceremonial day to recognize our independence is going to be June 13th, at the Madison Historical Society at 11 o'clock. It's posted on the calendar on the website. We'll be sending out letters to all people serving on boards and commissions to welcome them to attend this event. It'll be a nice opportunity just to celebrate town government. Our first town meeting, from what I understand, was held 200 years ago on June 19th, actually, is the actual date. Or the Saturday worked better scheduling wise, but so we'll talk a little bit about that. And we have our town municipal historian also speaking about just some cool things that happened there. And you can look at documents, and there's going to be a big display of flags. So I do want to put that one out there. And then obviously the big town party is happening on June 27th at the Surf Club, Saturday, 27th. And there's going to be a lot bands and, food trucks and all kinds of activities, and more information will be coming out in the next couple of weeks about that event. So those are kind of the two big ones I want to highlight for the community, but there's going to be a lot of other things and ways people can enjoy the celebration. So any Bruce, do you have any
I do not.
Okay, great. Right, moving on to citizens' comments. First here in the room, we have some people, any citizens' comments? No? Do we have any hands raised online?
Yes, you do. Hold on. Go ahead, Fran.
Thanks. I'm Francis Brady of 108 Genesee Lane. I'm testifying against the installation of artificial turf. I'm a retired polymer chemist, a parent of 2 athletic daughters, and a former high school and college soccer player myself. I'm here because I care about the health and safety of our athletes and our long-term costs to our town. Artificial turf may sound like an upgrade, but it brings avoidable risk. First, the chemical exposure is real. Turf systems contain plastics and often PFAS and other additives that can shed into dust and microplastics. Kids can inhale and ingest this material, and it can contact skin during slides and dives. We should not increase exposures when safer options exist. Second, heat is a serious safety issue. On sunny days, artificial turf can reach temperatures 40 to 70 degrees hotter than natural grass. This means a 90-degree day can create a field surface well above 150 degrees, hot enough to cause burns and dramatically increase the risk of heat exhaustion and heat stroke, especially for small little children. As summers get hotter, this becomes a predictable hazard. Third, the waste and financial burden are significant. Turf typically needs replacement every 8 to 10 years. Each cycle creates larger volumes of plastic waste that are difficult to recycle and commits taxpayers to ongoing replacement and disposal costs in the millions of dollars. And don't believe the line that this stuff is recyclable. The last company that said they could recycle it, Rematch, a Danish company, went bankrupt last year and left thousands of tons of PFAS-laden used artificial turf abandoned across Pennsylvania. A question to consider: why did a Connecticut state representative from another coastal town, Stamford, raise a proposed bill 5070 in 2023? And why does Massachusetts currently have proposed House Bill 3948 and Senate Bill 2057, basically prohibiting state and municipal contracts for the purchase and installation of artificial turf fields? Could it be because they are concerned for the health of their children, of their jurisdictions, or because there is a growing number of class action and individual lawsuits across the country against artificial turf manufacturers, installers, and municipalities? This is literally a hot legal topic. Natural grass is safer and more sustainable. It stays cooler, absorbs rainfall, can be repaired, and avoids the chemical and heat risks of plastic turf. For the health of our children and for the long-term environmental and financial well-being of our town, I urge you to reject the installation of artificial turf and invest instead in high-quality natural grass. If helpful, I can connect.
Fran, we have a limit on time, so if you can please just wrap up your comments, but thank you.
This is the last sentence and most important one. I could connect the town with an environmental health expert, an expert in artificial turf health hazards, to answer the questions the public is currently asking right now before you make this final decision. If you do go ahead, though, please ensure coaches, parents, and our children are well informed of these risks by including warning signage at our fields instructing them on this. Other towns do it. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Okay, thank you. Any other hands raised?
Yes. Go ahead, Jim.
Hi, Jim Schmaltz, Jonathan's Landing. I was just wondering if you're going to have an update from the Facilities Committee liaison report. I know I didn't hear that one when you guys were going through it earlier. That's all. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Report on the facilities. Any other hands raised?
Yes, there are 2 more.
Okay.
Hello, Terry Van Adulter, 17 Bartlett Drive. I'm speaking on behalf of all members of the Madison Conservation Commission in opposition to the new baseball turf proposal. The artificial turf contains large amounts of toxic chemicals, including carcinogens like benzene, PFAS, neurotoxins, lead, and respiratory irritants such as silica. Exposure to these chemicals poses threats to human health, including cancer, even at low levels. The science on this is clear. The toxins don't just affect human health, they impact our environment. The chemicals leach into our soil, water, and air. Beyond the chemicals, artificial turf has additional enormous negative impacts on the environment. They radiate higher temperatures like a black roof, increasing both the surface and air temperatures. They become barren, toxic spaces for species that we might not see but are critical to the ecosystem. It's also worth noting that this field is adjacent to the Neck River, and if the plan calls for cutting trees, wouldn't that be devastating? Artificial turf is petroleum-based heat island, and yet it is pitched as a modern innovation and something the baseball community, quote, deserves. While it may be convenient and easier to maintain than grass, we know it's not good for our student athletes, for fans, or for the environment. All the members of the Conservation Commission, including the chair, Heather Crawford, the vice chair, Amy Thomas, and the rest of us, plead that you please reject the proposal for artificial turf and go with natural grass and micro clover, because micro clover will push out all other weeds and it does not require herbicides or pesticides. And if we're planting something near the Neck River and we want to be a sustainable community, we have to think of the long-term effects on the environment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Any other hands raised?
Go ahead, Ann.
Hi, this is Ann Tarpey Flanders, 94 Five Fields Road, and Richard is with me. I don't know if you want both of us to do this individually. However, I am opposed to the turf idea for all the reasons that both Fran and Terry have just stated. Thank you. And Rich.
And I am also. Think of the long-term effects on the environment. That's what really matters, or you would be paying the price sooner or later.
Thank
Okay.
you.
For your comments? Okay. Any other hands?
Peggy, there's one more.
Yep. Okay.
Go ahead, Karen Chapman.
Hi, I'm sorry. I have never done this before, but I am very concerned about the use of turf. Beyond the fact that we can't afford it, and I think there are many things in our plan that we still don't have budgeted, like Ryerson, Jeffrey, things at the surf club. I was a parent of a student athlete at Hand who played on the turf at Hand for 4 years. And in that small group of soccer players, the number of kids that got MRSA from turf burns on that field was huge. My kid never got it, luckily, but I could list off 5 or 6 kids that did, just of his the year that he played from his grade level. So I think, like Guilford, we need to be a little bit more careful in what we're exposing our kids to. And so for financial reasons and for the health reasons of our kids, in addition to the environmental reasons that were just projected, I do not support this at all. And I think if we had the time to get more parents of athletes involved, they would say the same thing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comment.
And just for the record, Ann, Karen, what street do you live on?
Oh, I'm sorry. Like I said, never done this before. 19 Genda Way. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, no other hands raised? All right, well, thank you very much. Move on to the business section. And just before we get to the business section, I did want to make a motion to table item number 20, which is the executive session due to pending information we need from staff. So I'd like to recommend that goes to a special meeting for the executive session. So if I could get a second on that.
Second.
Okay, any other further comments or questions of tabling item number 20? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, item number 6 is the consent agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second. Okay, any further comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Item number 7, update of the Neck River Elementary School Building Committee. So we have the building committee chair, Grant Curtis here. I know we've got town staff involved in the project. So I guess I'll turn it over to you, Grant, to give us an update.
Thank you for inviting me to update you. I've got
Oh, it's the other. Let's see if I can fix that. I don't know how to fix it, so, but.
yes, I can
I don't know
do
how.
it from my.
Oh, wait,
Slide both ways.
yeah, just move that.
We'll move back to you.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Go ahead.
It's great to be asked to come back. It's been a while since we updated the board on the status of the project. As we've been closing out the project, we've got a better handle on the money remaining, and that's primarily what we're talking about with the next steps. Next slide.
Jeannie, oh, there.
Hopefully people could read this.
Yeah.
Just to refresh everyone's, the original project budget was $61.15 million. That was out of the 99 million. And that's after the Pulse funds were returned. If you recall, at one point, because of budget concerns, we requested $3.45 million being to the project to give us the ability to fund the bid the project. That was turned out not to be necessary, so we returned those funds. So the $61 million is the original project budget. The current estimate, based on the best available information, is for closing out the various contracts and eliminating contingencies and things we had available. Current project budget is expected to cost between $58.6 and $58.7 million. That's down a little bit from previously as we resolve uncertainties, with change orders and things like that. We're getting closer to the number. So for those checking the math at home, that's about $2.5 million remaining on the project. This just want to be clear, this does not include demolition of Ryerson, the solar project, or any other projects that would be anticipated, but it does include everything complete in the building. Just to give you an update on the original anticipated total state reimbursement is $13.814 million. That's it, larger than the original estimate of $9.8 million because we were able to get additional reimbursement. So it's $5 million of bonded debt that was completed. Next slide. So in terms of additional funds, these are not the only funds available. These are funds that will come back to the town, but they do not come back to the project. So they're available for other projects, but they're not project costs. So it's estimated to be approximately $2 million of geothermal tax credit. By putting in a geothermal system, you're able to qualify that. Working the paperwork, I believe the town hall recently received their tax credits. So that is in the works. That's $2 million in return. And additionally, because we did a high performance building with Eversource, we're going to receive $410,000.
Like a month.
Barley would mention. 319 has been received, and remaining 90,000 anticipated by the end of 2026 after quote occupancy verification. So that's pretty much where we stand on financial. So any questions about that information?
So just so I understand though, so that leaves a residual amount of, I didn't do the math exactly, what was it, 2.5 million?
Yeah.
About?
Yeah, 2.5 million.
Yeah.
But that not including the 2 and
Right.
the 4. So
Right. So that's where we'll be talking about Ryerson, and that would be the funds that we could be using for the demolition works.
So where is the 2 million in the 4.1 for 10K? Where does that go back?
that comes back to the town.
Into the general
General
fund.
fund.
So that's.
Yeah, general fund. So
Right.
you know, and it was not including the 90. You can't. My interpretation is can't use that to offset the 99 million. Can't go above the 99 with that
Right.
2 million, 2.4.
No, it has to come back, and then I think the town would then decide, you know, we could use it to just pay down debt, we could use it to fund another project. I mean, that's gonna be a conversation that we'll have to have, but the good thing is it is kind of net
coming
at the
back.
cost, right?
Yeah.
It's coming back, which is great.
the building committee would prefer the solar project
Right.
as, to get a truly net zero building. That was not in the project because it was always anticipated that probably could be done as PPA. But you can, if you want to own it, it's a better investment to own rather than.
And we talked through that in this board where we decided rather than try to cram in something quickly to qualify for the funding that one or the tax breaks that.
Yeah, tax, yeah.
Because those all got
The
canceled.
Inflation Reduction Act.
Right, yeah, that all got canceled in the last federal budget. But what we're looking to do now is look at the project and go for state financing or
State reimbursement.
state reimbursement for a portion of it. This would qualify for that. So, and then we could look at taking that 2 million if we wanted, or we might have other things, that to fund that project. So that'll be future discussions.
So, I mean, that's it, just remaining tasks, closing out the project, is working with the field mayor, construction manager, and the commissioning agent to, address, make sure the warranty, the occupancy of the building, as we recall, last summer, so we're coming up on the 1-year anniversary. We'll go through the punch list and address everything that needs to be done. Working with the tax consultant to submit the tax credits, and we'll work with the funding for the reimbursement and get the money back. State grant reimbursement, they'll withhold a certain amount. So we're working. This will be going on for a little bit longer with the building committee. Official duties will probably end, hopefully the next 6 months.
The gift keeps on giving.
Keeps like, yeah, we're not doing a 5-year library. My wife told me that
That's it.
the handoff, make it clean.
Nice.
I think we're going to board event next week and officially have to accept the building. So that's kind of a milestone. There's some payments we'll be doing, but that's pretty much wrapping up the building committee's tasks.
Well, I mean, congratulations to a great result, And when I think about where we started, in the middle of like the kind of crazy construction environment and having to come to this point and be under budget essentially, I think it's fantastic. So thank you for all the hard work. Great. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, and the skill set you guys brought to the table. Well, we helped pick.
Yeah, you guys, it's really, I would say the select.
All right, I'll take credit.
Yeah,
The skill set that you guys had on that committee was unbelievable. Really was fantastic.
So I think that, the next item, which we can talk about in a few minutes, though, has really been to take that was a line item that was only listed as a kind of data point, was $1 million.
Well, I think it was, at one point it was at $1.3 million.
Yeah, right. It was part of kind of a conversation about like, okay, $1.3 million would go to demolish Ryerson. Obviously, we now have more updated projections and we'll talk about that. The good news is it looks like we'll have hopefully enough funding, unless we get a surprise, obviously when we would go through the process and bid this out, because we've got to do some more, I think, hazardous material investigation so.
That's done.
Oh, we're done. Oh, that's right. That's what that whole, that report that goes on. So if we move on, we can move on to item number 8 if you want. Do you have any questions more for Graham and the building committee? Anybody? No?
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank these guys for helping out and taking Ryerson down.
So item number 8 is discuss and take action to authorize using the remaining Neck River project funds for the demolition of Ryerson School and transferring project oversight from the new elementary school building committee to the director of construction and planning.
Definitely.
Second.
So I think essentially what we want to do here is start the planning process and use the funding. I know we talked a couple months ago, the facilities committee was going through a process and looking at, is there any salvage part of the building for whatever uses. They went through that process. They actually voted to recommend demolition. So that door's closed now. And so now we would be at this stage, I feel like if we have the funding, we know that this is what the Board of Ed had recommended, we know the town has an expectation. Well, let's just move forward with this process. So Ben, maybe walk us through how this would work and the timing and all that.
Yeah, so just kind of jumped into this a few weeks ago when it came down that this potentially become a reality. So we already went through the financial piece. So I'll kind of skip through all that in terms of what's available for the project. There was an environmental study done by Langen. They went through the entire building, did a whole pre-demolition survey. That's the real deal. They did destructive testing. They came back with their hazardous building material report. There's asbestos in all the normal locations, nothing crazy. It's just how those buildings were built back then. They provided an estimate of between 820,000 and 1.7 million, which is a huge range. But they were making some assumptions at that time about some subsurface. They wanted to dig some test pits, which were done a little bit later on. So they put a bunch of allowances in there. And abatement is also a very seasonal job. If you're doing it in the summer, when everybody else is going with schools, the price is a lot higher. You catch a good bid cycle in the winter, so it's a little cheaper. Gilbane took that number and they were contracted by the building committee last August to do an estimate to demo. They came back at 2.9 million, a little bit over 2.9, but that was using the worst case scenario 1.7 with abatement costs. And that was their estimate back in August. They had escalated it to summer of the year. So we've got 2.4, looks like maybe 2.5. In discussions with Gilbane and with Lane that I've had in the past couple weeks, they think now that they have dug some test pits around the foundation, they found out that there's a asbestos damp proofing that you find on the exterior walls subsurface. It is not present, so that's a good thing. That was like a $200,000 allowance they had in that built into that 1.7. So they agree that the 2.4 is feasible. So what we want to do on our end to try to get this cost down as low as possible. If this is approved tonight, we move forward with Langen doing demolition abatement specs, which is about $7,000. And I will integrate that into our bid package. I'm going to try to do as much of this in-house to keep the cost down. I also want to start chipping away at a couple of items in the building, kind of pre-demo. So there's an underground storage tank. I want to take that out. These are things we can do a lot cheaper on our own, contracting on our own than waiting and building as part of this project. I'll also start immediately working on utility disconnects. We want to get them away from the building, but still accessible for during the demolition and abatement processes. It'll also allow us, if there is any use of that, when we're done with this, it's going to be a grassy field essentially. But we'll have utilities up there just for any future use, even if it's a pavilion that goes up there at some point in the future. Originally, I was going to do this where we would try to do the abatement work in late spring and then do some of the, let's call it heavier demolition, actually taking out structural steel, stuff like that during the school year, during the summer. So we weren't going during the school year. In talking to Langen and Gilbane some more, they think that it actually won't be disruptive to Brown. It's far enough away. At that point, we're really just talking about excavators, picking stuff, putting it into trucks, and we would just limit the haul off hours. So we say, hey, no trucks unless between 9:30 and 2:30. The pro is if we start right now, I'd be thinking we bid this in December or so and do like a March start. It's probably a 90 to 100-day process. The price can be as much as 20 to 30% less by not doing it in the summer. So I haven't told Dr. Cook that tidbit of information yet. My cat's out of the bag. So
You'll be learning it now.
Yeah, I'm learning it now. But this is a way to. But again, there's not going to be any disruption to Brown through this process, and the abatement portion of it is all pretty much inside the building anyway.
There's no safety concern.
There's no safety concern. Yeah, my original thought when we were talking summer was just like, hey, why not? If you could just eliminate it off the board completely. But then again, as we started chewing on this for the past couple of weeks, that field up there is actually used quite frequently in the summer. So we might as well get out of there before that starts getting heavy use. There's a playscape up there. It actually, I think, would be less invasive to do it before the nice weather hits. So if we could do that and save some money by doing it, then, all the better. So that's the current operational plan for the project. If you guys approve tonight. So.
Do you know if Little League is using that field right at those?
They do, yeah. That was one of the. I was talking to our athletic director, and we were talking about Little League and things like that. So yeah,
they're going down.
Much easier to get out of there before they really get started in earnest. They could still. We would come up with a logistics plan, but after hours and everything, they didn't have it at the field. It would just be during the day. We'd probably just keep people out of that. Well,
they've started already. Down.
Yeah, no, as long as they're not playing at noon.
Yeah,
no, it's fine.
No,
after hours is fine.
Yeah.
But so you're saying you would bid it out in December or award in December?
I'm shooting for bid in December. That means we'd have an award in January. Yeah, early February.
Starting later.
March.
Okay. And then we'll see where it lands. As we know, sometimes we have an estimate and then we have the market, right? Depending on what's going on. So But then we can make a decision if we need extra funding or maybe save some.
So Gildane's not the one to do it.
No, not at all. They were just, I think the building committee had them do it because they were working with them on the school
Yeah.
project. To say, hey, you do an estimate while you're, while we have your ear. They have nothing to do with the project at all. I just took the estimate. It was the first time I saw it. I just reviewed it with them, so.
Okay,
Order of magnitude.
any more questions on this? And then the next item is actually prove it. So, just kind of cement it as part of our process.
So we need to vote on this, right?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Item 8 is, using the project fund. So all in favor of item number 8, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, great. This is unanimously. Item number 9 is discuss and take action to approve the demolition of Ryerson, provided the remaining Neck River project funds are sufficient to cover the costs.
Second.
Okay, so this is just basically, so you've got the, budget, you've got the authorization to move forward with the process. I think if we don't have enough money, then we would have to then vote on what other funds we would put into this.
So it's an interesting caveat that we're approving the demolition provided the Neck River project funds are sufficient. Are we saying that if they're not sufficient, we're not doing the demolition?
Well, I mean, he needs to go through and had spent some money now, right? So we wanted authority to use some funding now to get the bid packages ready and do all that work.
Yeah, the utility work. The
Yeah,
storage
and
tank,
utility
talk
work,
less
right.
about it,
So then we put it out in December, and if it comes back, I'm assuming we'll fund whatever we need to, but we don't know what that number is. I'm hoping we won't need additional funds, but we will have to vote on, we don't have other money laying around to appropriate to it now, because we don't know what the cost is gonna be, so.
So it's really no different than any other project.
Yeah.
So if you have 2.4 million and the bids come back to 2.5, you're dead in the water until you put more money to it anyway. So it is a little redundant language.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think.
I think it's just being transparent,
Yeah.
right?
Right, but alternate language would have been to use the Neck River excess funds
Yep.
as the primary source of funding. And if that's not sufficient, then to
Reassess.
to do special appropriation.
Yeah, it's actually wasted language though, because it's like any project. It goes without saying, any project is only approved to move forward if it's within budget.
Right.
So,
Until we approve other funding for it,
Right.
right? So that's why, I'm just saying, we can't predetermine, we can't do an appropriation now, we can't decide we're gonna use money from some other funding source. I think we'll have that conversation if we need to.
Okay, so and I'm going to vote for this. I don't, I don't want to confuse the conversation,
What are
but
you concerned about, I guess, with the language?
I'm not voting for it and only to vote against it if there's not enough money in the
Right.
Neck River.
I
right?
see what you're
So,
saying. So you're perceiving this as somehow that we wouldn't actually do the demolition?
well, if it turns out that the residual funds aren't,
Yeah,
then this vote becomes void, and we can just re-vote on a new project budget.
I mean, should we make it more specific and just put the actual budget in here?
or should we
We
just
don't
say
know the
this?
budget yet.
You
Do you want to
strike the
take
last
out the
part of
last
the
sentence?
sentence.
Do you want to just take,
I
think after we approve the demolition of
Yeah.
Ryerson, period?
I think that's, yeah.
It's like adding a
That's
zero
fine.
after a decimal point.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
significant language.
Right.
So I will amend the motion to say, to eliminate provided through costs on the end of the motion I said before. Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, so now we would be voting on all in favor of discuss and take action to approve the demolition of Ryerson.
Are we voting or are we?
Oh, second. All in favor, say aye. I don't know, I messed that up somehow, but anyway, okay, so, perfect. Yeah, I think this was just like a caveat that we might have to come back and get more money, right? And,
That's good.
and we know how people are about that, right? So.
I mean, is there
We
any,
get extra money for that.
is there any conversation though that we need to be having either now or, with Ben and the team at some point, just in connection, sort of to Jim's point that he made earlier with the facilities committee, as they're looking at sort of a bigger
Oh, yeah.
picture master plan.
Yeah, they are.
Where does this fit in?
Yeah.
I remember the presentation was something about could we use a portion of it?
But
But they've already
No, they
voted to tear it down.
They did.
Yeah,
So we're
yeah,
good.
that's
Okay.
what- yeah, they've already they voted, as I stated a
Okay.
few minutes ago, like
I didn't
2 or 3
look
months
that up.
ago. They voted to recommend demolition, that there's no use, and they're looking at it, now I can go back to them and say,
Okay.
board's voted on it. Now you got all the space to think about, it started like the planning process, yeah,
Okay,
so,
Perfect.
so this kind of puts a,
Okay.
Okay, so we're good on that.
See their sense.
So thank you, Ben. I know you're gonna be around for some other things.
Thanks, Ben. Yeah.
We'll
Just
move
leave
on
the
to
podium
item
with
number
your name
10. Item number 10 is to discuss the proposed draft ordinance establishing an affordable housing. Thanks a lot, Grant. Establishing an affordable housing construction fund. So I want to welcome two members of our affordable housing committee who are here. Do you guys want to come? So we have a new chair and then the former chair are both joining us tonight. And the committee had drafted. We talked about this several months ago and it kind of gave them the green light to go forward and look at the housing trust fund. And I know, is Erin on here tonight? Oh, that's right. She's
Right there.
Oh, that's right. She's got another meeting. That's right. So she couldn't be here. Anyways, and I know this was run through town council as well.
And the finance department.
And the finance department. So this was kind of a census, and I know you're going to is under the committee.
Yeah, these guys have been working really hard on, getting the language right on this and advocating for, this ordinance, or I should say trust fund in general. This is a kind of big cornerstone of the work that they've been doing.
Agreed. I mean, I think we think of it as first of all, a sign that the town is moving ahead on the idea of trying to develop more affordable housing. But it's also a tool once it's been funded, and that's a separate issue, of course. But once it's been funded, it's something that we can use to actually help developers come in and be able to have more leverage, if you will, in dealing with developers in terms of affordable housing.
Yeah, and I think that the intention would, we'll have other conversations about funding sources and all that, but this is just to get kind of the authorization and have it established. And I know it was an objective, a goal that they had wanted to achieve. So you have a draft in your packet. I don't know if there are any questions you have for the committee.
I had a question about the anticipated magnitude of the funds that I think might be flowing through here.
I have the same question. We will make some recommendations, if this is approved to go ahead, we'll make some recommendations about the funding. I mean, first of all, the town could get some funds to it. That's one easy thing to do. The other thing would be to look at some of the licensing that we have and for permits and such like that, and perhaps having a portion of that be directed into this fund. We don't expect it to be a huge amount of money because we just don't have that much development in town for that kind of thing. But it is something that even if we had, say, $10,000, we'd be able to have some leverage and beginning to talk about with developers. So I know that we don't expect it to be a large amount of money. We've talked about, like, for Fairfield, they have 2 universities and they're constantly building and they've got millions in their trust fund. But I think it's more of a commitment by the town to move ahead on this, and a small amount of money would actually go a long way, in our opinion.
And I'm gonna be young and naive. I believe it's as big or as small as we want to make it. I'm not ready to start negotiating that it's gonna be small. Because I just, I think we set this up and we see how it goes. I think the town, as Mark said, the town on a regular basis, annually, every few years, can designate money to. There are ways of raising funds through the development process. There are federal and state grants that are available. There are private nonprofit foundations who want to support. So I think the real answer is we don't know what the size would be. The thing that I would just say is, first of all, it does send a powerful message that the town of Madison prioritizes and values affordable housing. I also remind people the definition of affordable housing is 80% of the mean home price in our town. And 80%
of the
It's New Haven County, isn't it?
Oh, no, it's both.
It's not Madison, it's New Haven County.
No, it's Madison.
It's the SCROG now, I think, according to the new law that the new law that the legislature passed in terms of the housing. I think it's the SCROG is what they're going to use.
Yeah.
Which is New Haven County plus.
Yeah, and I will say that in terms of timeliness, so this board will get briefed soon about the new housing legislation. I think there's going to be a lot of action items that we're going to have to take. This might be a way to facilitate assistance in terms of funding to implement some of those things as well. And so
So my concerns are the same as they've been since we've started talking about that and this. And it is diverting revenues now that go into offset the taxes of residents, such as permit fees, and otherwise using property tax revenues for the purposes of setting up this trust. So to the extent that the ordinance has got those income streams from permit fees, municipal appropriations, loans, bonds, so it provides for the town bonding to fund this. I'm not able to support it. I understand in theory the value of the fund, and to the extent that the sources of funding come from grants, state and federal, private donations, I think that's all fine. But there's an irony in an affordable housing plan that in effect raises property taxes. So I'm kind of stuck there.
Good timing, Aaron. Welcome.
Let me just say to that.
The Affordable
is
Housing Trust Fund.
Where the money comes from, if it's gonna come from the town of Madison, you guys control
Well, voters.
it. Just magically,
I think the point is, it would be, I would hope you would vote for having the trust fund, because you have the right to vote on every single item that goes into it.
But we
So you can
decide, it's
vote
not,
against anything.
Just setting up
it's
the account.
enabling language that allows us to go down certain paths if the will of the board is there. But it's not requiring.
Doesn't require
So,
anything.
yeah, it doesn't require anything. It just gives us the authority and the ability to do it.
And
Right, but to game the system, a future administration might do special appropriations underneath the minimum for a town meeting and fund with some frequency a sizable amount of money with zero voter input. And I'm not
But
sure
it's
that,
elected officials making, we do that all the time, though. We make appropriation decisions all the time. We're representing the people.
well,
So if a future board wanted to do that, they would be voting on it just like we do any other funding.
I would also hope too, Bruce, I'm just reacting to your point about the taxpayers and using taxpayer money, but at the end of the day, shouldn't we be that supportive, caring community that wants to help others find this opportunity? Not only a state mandate, but it's also sort of sets the tone of who we want to be as a community, and it was a part of our strategic plan too.
It is part of the strategic plan.
Yeah, and I think we would provide temporary seniors. I mean, that means those taxes are distributed across all the other taxpayers. We provide tax relief for seniors, we have veterans exemptions. I mean, it's public policy, so I understand if you have this fundamental problem with that, then I guess.
we're not voting on this tonight, we're
No,
discussing it,
yeah,
so I'm bringing up my
Yeah,
concerns.
that's good. That's
Yeah, but I
fine.
think,
It's,
your
again,
concern is that
Yeah.
this is going to cause increased taxes in one way or another, sooner or later.
So if it's coming from property tax dollars, then it has to, by definition, unless we cut some other town service, it has to increase the tax
So
bill.
I think 2 points. Number one is, as we move ahead with this new legislation in terms of housing, there'll be expenses that the town will incur. It'd be, perhaps this is the way, these funds here could be used for that. So it's actually, we could be bringing in external money into the town through the state or through federal money, if there is any federal money. We can bring money into this fund, which can then be used to pay expenses that would normally otherwise be the responsibility of the town itself. So in fact, it could save money to a certain extent. It's possible. Secondly, it requires the Board of Selectmen to positively approve any money going into this fund, positively approved. So if a future Board of Selectmen were to decide to kind of like try to pull a fast one on the town, the only recourse is to actually fire them in the next election. But I don't think that's something that I think we should give a high probability to, that somebody's going to try to beat the rules somehow.
Did you say somebody could fire Bruce? Is that what I heard?
I did not say that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it sounds, you have bigger concerns overall about, and that's gonna be a big conversation we have about affordable housing generally. To me, this is just one of many tools that we'd be looking to. It basically allows the money to be focused on that. It doesn't have to compete against other priorities necessarily. We do this with the coastal, we have the coastal resiliency reserve fund, that's separate, same as a trust fund. But we put money into that every year. Those are for coastal resiliency projects, right? So it kind of allows that to have a focus. I mean, the trust fund, I feel like I don't see any downside in doing this unless you're worried about something like that, but I'm kind of like, that's with anything that we do. Any future board is going to be setting policy and appropriating funds for things that are priorities for that board. So,
What is the approval mechanism for an ordinance?
well, this goes to a public hearing. So we would vote on it the next meeting and then set a public hearing.
Right, so this is not a referendum vote. This is a policy that directly impacts taxpayers, and to the extent that, is it even a town meeting where it's enacted?
No, it's just a public hearing.
So it's a public hearing. So, yeah, maybe we'll learn something with the new,
Yeah.
when we get an update that will shift my position. But I'm the risk to property tax increases, I think for me is too great. Now, you take those things out, those funding sources out, I really have no objection to the document at all.
Oh, I think we could, as I say, the board of selectmen has to approve any money that goes into this thing. The money that we would be going after would be money from other sources, since we, obviously we would like to try to do that first. So if that is the case, the board can say, no, we don't want to give any money to this thing. We don't want to raise our taxes. That's you guys go out and find the money elsewhere, which we'll do.
Yeah.
And also expenditures, by the way, also have to be approved by either through a budgeting process or by special.
Which I didn't understand, the budgeting process. So our budgeting process is to put together a spending document that goes to the Board of Finance
Right.
for approval, that then goes to the taxpayers for a referendum.
Right.
Would spending through, is that the budget process that is envisioned? I'm guessing that came from state language.
Yes, this would be part of the town budget, but it's a
Yeah.
separate item.
Right, but no different than any reserve funds that we have. We budget line items for
Like the fire
reserve funds. So we could put in a reserve account or a line item in the budget every year to go into the affordable housing trust fund.
And the number could be zero.
Yeah, it could be zero, or we could have nothing right now in there and just assume we're gonna rely on outside funding. So I think that would be something we'd have to deal with. I think right now, this is just like I said, symbolic move. And then, as we start, for example, the facilities committee is going to be coming forward and talking about possible town land that might want to be developed. And this might be a source of funding for some septic studies on the property, something like that. I'm just saying, there are things that it could be used to help the town. It either comes in through the housing trust fund or it comes in through planning reserve. But it highlights the commitment, I think, to address the issue, I guess, by having it come through the housing trust fund.
And just another question. I know something we've heard from members of the community is, is there any way to prioritize affordable housing projects for folks who already live in Madison and maybe want to downsize and that sort of thing? By having a trust fund like this, if there were money available in that trust fund for the purpose of studies, projects, anything like that, would that enable the influence of?
It is my understanding, the financing of each project determines what the rules are. And so we take.
So if they took larger portions from government and that sort of thing, that could have its own rules and.
It would have its own rules, but
Yeah.
but yes, it is possible, as I understand it, to have ways of financing projects like this where you do have some rules, either people who work in the town or people who are older people moving into a more senior.
But we don't always have to say,
Right.
it's the financiers, right? That
Yes.
decide.
Well, yeah, depending. If it's town land, we can dictate the terms and the type of financing, right? If it's not town land, that's going to go through the planning and zoning process and, how they finance it, what the qualifications are to getting an affordable unit is really not something I think we can have a say over through the planning and zoning process. But if it's town land, we can as a policy say, if we're gonna use town land, it's gonna be for Madison residents, or it's gonna be for seniors, and that will eliminate financing options for some developers that might bid on the project. But, that's something how we would set it up and how we would do it. So, I mean, to Bruce's point, this is a discussion item, and I think those are all worthy comments, and maybe we can think about, do we want to tighten up the funding sources, which it could always be amended later if we wanted to expand the funding sources.
I think they put it in as all of the funding sources.
Yeah, I know, that's what I'm saying. So we could think about if board members are uncomfortable having the extensive list and maybe focus it on a more list that we think is more pragmatic for the next 2 or 3 years,
Well, okay.
Yeah, I'm just saying, I'm just putting it out for conversation.
Yeah.
We'll come back and talk about that.
I do have one other technical question. And that is, the draft mentions that the fund will be perpetual.
Yes. It has to be.
Does that mean once it's enacted, it can be defunded? It can go to zero, but it can never be closed out.
That's right. It could go to zero and it can never be used. It just to be
And the fact that the fund exists doesn't obligate the
We can
some
change
future funding of the. I didn't read that in the text. I'm just clarifying.
Yeah, no, that's right.
Pardon?
Yeah.
The language is all may, as far as funding sources, the shows.
Aaron, how do town planners look at something like this?
This model for the trust fund was mirrored after Mansfield. From many examples throughout the state, this is fairly standard language. It has been reviewed for legal implications by our town attorney, and she had made some minor edits with respect to grant language and monies received from state and federal agencies. I guess my only thought on this is we have several policies and planning documents in town, our POCD, our strategic plan, our affordable housing plan, that all commit to housing opportunities for various stages of people's lives. And that includes some that would be considered deed restricted affordable under the state's definition. And so I think this draft language is consistent with all of those plans and policies that have been adopted by this board. This is nothing outside of that. One example that I can compare this to is the Open Space Fund. It's a dedicated fund that is earmarked to receive either donations or funding from the town, which has happened in previous years, direct allocations into that account, and also to be that mechanism for when fee in lieu or policy that is adopted by the zoning commission for their regulations, if someone can't comply with a set aside open space area, they have the option to pay a fee in lieu that goes into this pool for ideal projects, or more desired open space. So it's similar to that type of account. I think the perpetual account is really so that it doesn't at the end of each fiscal year end. But as with any ordinance, the Board of Selectmen has the authority to call a public hearing and amend ordinances, as we did with the flood ordinance and just most recently with the Historic District Commission and adding another district. It's a process that allows for public input, and that answers some of your.
One more technical question. I don't read the Board of Finance in this document at all. And typically when the Board of Selectmen allocate monies, they do it with the subsequent permission of the Board of Finance. This document would have us moving money and doesn't provide for any Board of Finance input.
I would say that this recommendation for allocating funds involves the Affordable Housing Committee, myself, or the town planner, the finance director. But as far as spending money, I still believe that the charter holds.
Yeah, you
and
still have to go through any kind of.
whatever the levels
Budget
spending on.
appropriations.
So it might be a word update to say, to mention that allocations that the Board of Selectmen recommends still go through whatever the charter process is.
Yeah.
Right? So this is,
Yeah.
because this would seem to say we can do it with, and leave them behind. And as much as we would like to do that sometimes,
Yeah, I don't.
they don't like it when we try to do that.
So that, yeah.
No, I mean, I think there's an assumption that you still have to follow your typical, but that's fine. We can add language to that effect for sure. Okay, so there's a lot. Maybe what we'll do is do an updated draft and then, you know, potentially vote on it at our next meeting and set a public hearing date.
We can come
Okay.
back.
Yeah. Yeah, so we'll come back and then we have to figure out when would be a good time for a public hearing as well. So coordinating, obviously, it would be good to have your committee there. And so we'll figure out the date for that. Okay?
Thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you for all your hard work.
Sure.
Okay. Item number 11. Discuss and take action to accept a recommendation from the ad hoc EOC Firehouse Expansion Committee to award a proposal to ActiveView in the amount of $152,924.14 for the emergency operation visualization system pricing per HGAC contract. 521 and authorize the first selectman to sign all contracts and documents associated with this award as approved in the fiscal year 2025-2026 CIP CNRE fund.
So moved.
Second. Okay, go ahead.
Next 5 items are like, here's what I did this winter, was line all this stuff up. So, a lot at once, but everything, moves into the action
Ben,
phase.
can I just interrupt you for 1 second? Did you need to update the price?
No, that's a different item. That's the,
Okay.
e-roof.
Thank you. Sorry.
No problem. So this one is we call it the ActiveView system for the EOC. So this is what's commonly referred to as a video wall. So with this project or element of the project, we only had $150,000, which sounds like a lot, but when you're talking this type of technology, it really isn't. And that was for furniture and everything too. But we started off about a year ago and said, let's look at what we really want and need in this room. Go for kind of the industry standard and then scale back to fit our budget, if the case may be. So we started working with this company called ActiveView. Their original solution, it's literally a 20-foot long by 4.5-foot tall wall of multiple screens, kind of like what's in the Hammond Asset room, just on a different scale. And what that allows you to do is take input from anybody in the room and feed data points and share. Think of it like you're sharing your screen, but you can share 16 screens. So you could put the weather on one, the news on another, your radio dispatch on another, and you could literally drag and drop these things through their software, put that on the screen, take that off the screen, and it happens in real time. Really cool stuff. But it was $400,000. So it was like, that's not gonna happen. So we took her out to Manchester, New Hampshire. So ActiveView just did a system. They've been using it about a year now, and they have a $500,000 system. Thanks to some grants that their city got. But we're able to actually play with this system. And it was definitely as advertised. They couldn't have been happier with it. We did some live demos, actually took back a bunch of tweaks we would make even to our ideal system. And then kind of had this idea, we're like, what if we could use their back end, but instead of putting it on this huge video wall, we do like 200-inch screens, which you could buy at Best Buy for $1,500. Turns out you can do that. So to buy, if we can build all their back office infrastructure, so their servers, their software, they're a software company essentially that also provides all the hardware that you need. But to hook up this room with the mics that are needed, because we could have video conferencing set up in there, speakers, the touch panel controls to maneuver these things, all the client software that we would keep on our laptops, the server room, the brains behind the operation, You could do all that stuff, but instead of projecting it on this video wall, you're putting it on these 200-inch screens and dividing them up into like 4 screens each. Then if we ever wanted to put in the big boy screen later, we could always do that. So we're, first of all, pretty surprised we could do this, and worked with ActiveView for another few months. Ended up these you run fiber optic cable to various screens in the room. We also have in the project 2 side screens like this. So there'd be one big screen up in front of the EOC, 2 side screens, and another one in the conference room. We actually expanded it so all the screens would be on the same program. Really cool functionality. Like you are just picking things and dropping it, and it's like that. There's no waiting. And anybody who's on the client, we have a 10 client pack for anybody in the room. They can fire all these things up, and then you have a guest account as well. So if you had somebody from Eversource there, they can come in, plug in, and feed their data up to the screens here. So really cool. So after a lot of round and round and refloating and everything else, they were really good to work with. Heard out our crazy ideas, and we really were able to customize the package. We were down to about $153,000. That was after that's based on HGAC's purchasing consortium that we're a member of. We actually got some additional discounts on top of that. Don't tell anybody. And we also found a way to do a lot of the cabling through the construction project. We're able to scrape $6,500 off of their price to have our contractor do it. And then we changed the way the room was wired and actually are getting all that done for a net credit. So we saved another $6,500 as well. Like we looked at this every way possible to try to get down to that 150 number. The good news is we have $91,000 of what's called savings for the pre-construction phase. Munger really did a good job saving some money for us during that pre-con phase, and we came a lot under their $240,000 PO. So we have enough to fund that. We're going to hold about $7,000 to buy the screens, and hopefully have enough left over for some tables and chairs for the EOC. So that's where we are. We're ready to go. If you guys approve this tonight, we'll get the equipment on order, and the install will be probably July, so we'll be ready for that in the space.
I'll take you up to Costco. We'll get those 100-inch TVs for less than $1,500.
No, Best Buy just had them on sale for 15, but if you can find them cheaper, we haven't bought them.
I bought an 85-inch TV this winter for $650.
Yeah, so it goes way down when you get below the 100. So the 98 and 100-inch screens are like twice the price of an 80-inch screen because we're putting the 75s. We couldn't fit an 80, we could fit a 75 on the sidewalls, and those are like $500. But that 100-inch but this is it's essentially a piece of plywood. And that gives you we played with an 80-inch TV, but it really wouldn't give you good definition. When you split the screen up, it still looks small. But on the 100-inch, would be good. So a lot better than $400,000.
So this is all happening inside the budget.
This is all within the budget. Yep. No additional funding needed.
But obviously a lot of creative thinking.
Yeah, this is the process. But honestly, the firehouse was really good to work with this. Sam and his crew, they just went through the committee and can't say enough good things so far about ActiveView. And then the guys who with public safety in Manchester, I mean, they took like 2 hours to walk us through. We met with their IT guy, Aaron, our IT guy, and then started talking IT stuff to each other. It was a beautiful thing. You know, we left there like really confident. Yeah, no, we left this like
That one there because
so we actually took something that Manchester was using and we've implemented it over there that in the ClickShare product, and they were using it as an add-on to their system. Like if just a random person was invited to a meeting and they're like, hey, I want to share my screen. We now have that. They beta tested.
Oh, that's what that
over
whole
there.
thing.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's great.
So that'll be a feed in as well to the system.
Good.
Works great.
Yeah.
Very simple.
Well, and just while we're on this, just say that, if we wanted to do a board walkthrough to see the status of the project, you're welcome to. It's now fully happening. It's getting moving along. I'm sure you see it downtown. And then we'll be looking for some sort of ribbon cutting or whatever in August. So we wanted to do a walkthrough in like May just to see, maybe we'll reach out and schedule something so we could see how everything's.
Yeah, we're at a good point now because the stairwell is now open. You can actually walk up into the EOC. As of last week, we've got all but one of the interior walls framed out. So you can actually get good perspective in the space now. It's coming together.
No, we end up. All right, well, good. Well, no more further questions on that. All in favor, say aye.
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 Can you,
All right.
Peggy, I missed who nominated that and seconded that agenda item.
All
I
right.
think it was me.
Thank you.
Scott and Jen down.
Yeah, I mean, it's always us.
Pretty safe, Scott and Jen.
Okay. Moving on to item number 12. Discuss and take action to accept the recommendation from the Facilities Department to award a contract with BMP Construction in the amount of $585,430. Yeah, we said, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I think we did that. Okay, furthering on my motion in the amount of $585,435 for the Madison Police Storage Garage and authorize the first selectman to sign all contracts and documents associated with this award as approved in fiscal year 2025-26 and fiscal year 26-27 CIP CNRE fund, contingent on the fiscal 26-27 budget approval at referendum.
So moved.
Second. Okay, so I know that there was some concern about, the language saying contingent on budget approval. This is just a procedural thing. If the budget does not pass, none of this is valid, okay?
Yep.
But the way the schedule worked out, our next meeting isn't until May 12th, I think. And so he's got this massive list of stuff. He's got to get a lot, and we're trying to get a lot done this summer, So it was just timing wise. This way, if things pass tomorrow, he's good to go. He can go out and keep things moving on the project. Otherwise, we have to either have a special meeting or try to wait till the May 12th. So that was why, and we've done contingency things before. I just know some people thought, wait a second, what are they doing? The vote is still the most important thing tomorrow. None of this will go forward if the
There's no bait and switch here.
The budget has to get approved. And then we'll have to revisit if it doesn't, how we're going to handle all these contracts and all that stuff. So,
So this has been sitting uneasy with me, and I actually took some time to write out what it was about it. So I just want to read a prepared comment, and this is for items 12, 13, 14, and 15 on our agenda. While these motions are framed as contingent upon the referendum, I'm deeply uncomfortable with the board taking formal action on them tonight. The referendum is the specific moment when the citizens of Madison grant us the authority to act. By voting to approve these expenditures less than 24 hours before the polls open, we are essentially reversing the flow of Democrat consent. Even a conditional vote tonight can be perceived as presumptive, sending a message that the board views the public's decision as a foregone conclusion rather than a binding mandate. I believe our official action should be a result of the people's will, not a prediction of it. In the interest of maintaining public trust and upholding the integrity of the referendum process, I cannot support taking these votes until the voters have spoken. For that reason, I will be voting no on all four of those motions tonight, strictly on procedural grounds.
And I was going to say, I have to say that I support and feel the same way as Bruce does on that. I just don't think it's a good look for us to be approving things to move forward in what appears as either advocacy or opposition to these items when we have not had the vote from the members of our community. I think that's the right way to do it. I think it's the right order to do it in. It's not against the projects themselves. It's just, from the operational standpoint of how we are meant to function with our referendums.
so I just would like to make a comment. We're not voting on the funding. We're voting on awarding a contract. We sign contracts all the time contingent on funding. We do it all the time. So I think that's where I get what you're saying, but we're not actually approving funds with this. We're approving the contract's going to go to this person when the funding is available. The funding is not going to be available until tomorrow. And so that's really what we're doing here, so that's why I didn't see this at all as, contrary to the will. It's a standard kind of thing that we do all the time. And I also think given, you know, the level of work that's being going on, days matter. And for a lot of these projects, so that was why I felt very comfortable doing this, but I recognize that, so I don't know when we hear from other board members.
Well, I feel like we frequently had votes where it's contingent upon some other element of town government taking the appropriate action. Often it's the Board of Finance. So to me, we are simply priming this tonight. We're not pulling the trigger. We can't pull the trigger until voters tell us the dollars are there. So I feel this is just a procedural nicety to keep things moving, to keep the process ready to move forward should the voters be affirmative in the vote tomorrow. So I don't feel like we're pulling the trigger.
This is, if I may, this is a procurement compliance item. That's all this is. This is saying, me coming to you saying, we have procured this project per our procurement policy. So if funding is put into place, we have checked that box that we're compliant with policy. That's all this is. This has nothing to do with the project approval process or the funding for a project approval. That goes with all these projects. Like, we're not debating the merits of the project. We're saying that this is complying with procurement policy. That's all. That's all bill words are at any time. And we're under no obligation for any of these items. If the budget fails tomorrow, then it's gone.
To Jen's point, I think.
Can I?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I don't feel strongly about this anyway, to be honest with you. I mean, I think we've done it plenty in our past. That's why we're elected officials, and the point being that we're following current guidelines is so strong.
Any other comments?
I'm sure we could drag this out all night. We don't
Yeah.
need to. I think we've we've expressed our feelings on it.
Yeah, I just feel like this is about procedure and process and not about, and there's nothing here that's obligating anything for the town except it's enabling an action to be taken pending what happens tomorrow.
Okay. And you guys know my experiences on the Board of Ed side. And in a Board of Ed, this is how you have to operate if you want to do anything that summer, or else you're going to sit on a project the whole next year. So this is literally
Standard operating procedure.
In my last district, we controlled the capital funding. The town wasn't doing it. So like, this was the process we used in order to, like, if you wait and you even start bidding a project out, you're too late, and you're gonna sit on another year. And what I don't want to happen, that's why I try to keep all these projects going in a good mix, because I don't want it to be like it was several years ago where projects were approved and then you guys are going, what's going on with that project? It's been 2 years. So we want to do these things. We should be ready to pull the trigger as soon as the voters approve the money, not start the process.
So, yeah, we just do a vote on this, I guess. All in favor of approving item number 12, say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Okay.
Okay, we got 2 nays, and so item passes. We'll move on to item number 13, discuss and take action to accept a recommendation from the Facilities Department to award a contract to Eagle Rivet Roof Service in the amount of $99,150 for the roof replacement of the NPD main building carport and storage building roofs. Company is on state contract, and authorize the first selectman to sign all contracts and documents associated with this orders as approved in the fiscal 25-26 and fiscal 26-27 CIP CNRE fund, contingent on the 26-27 budget approval at referendum.
So note on that one, that's the one Jeannie was referring to. The actual amount is $98,495, which coincidentally is our budget. Their bid price this was done through the state contract, not a formal invitation to bid. They were at $99,150, and now we're back and say, hey guys, our budget's $98,495. So they scraped the $600.
Will amend my motion to update the amount to $98,495.
Now, is that the budget that was in our current fiscal year?
This is being voted on tomorrow. It's in there.
Does it rely on funds from tomorrow's vote?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. All of these do.
Yeah.
all of them.
All the ones.
Well, you said that was our budget. I thought you meant it was from a prior,
No,
Budget is
a prior budget that we
Yeah,
already done.
it's the project's budget,
Yeah.
and the project is in that.
Okay, so, any comment, or, can I get a motion in a second? Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, any further comments or questions on item number 13? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Nay?
Okay, 2 nays. Item passes. Item number 14. Discuss and take action to accept a recommendation from the Facilities Department to award a contract to Empire Paving in an amount not to exceed $199,000 for the Phase 1 repaving of town campus. Company is on state contract, and authorize the first selectman to sign all contracts and documents associated with this award as approved in the fiscal year 25-26 and fiscal year 26-27 CIP, CNRE fund contingent on fiscal year 26-27 budget approval at referendum.
So moved.
Second.
Okay,
Can I just take this opportunity to, I got an inquiry and I tried to explain it as best I could, about the competitive bid nature of these types of awards. When we avail ourselves of a state contract, that contractor has been through a competitive bid situation as required. We may not put out an individual bid for the project. We're availing ourselves of a master agreement that is there. So when we do this, even if it doesn't show up on our town website as an RFP process, it is still a competitive bid.
Correct. And to take it one step further, let's use the roofing one, for example. There are different types of state contracts with different types of rules governing those contracts. So the roofing one is on what's called the state's trade labor contract. So when you want to use the state's trade labor contract for the project over $25,000, you actually have to do like a mini bid. So it's, you don't have to do a full-blown set of architectural plans and specs, which is why it's advantageous for a job like that where you're literally removing shingles and putting your shingles back on. I write up a spec document. You have to solicit 3 vendors. And then you, unless there's a reason not to, you go with the cheapest one, which is what we're doing in this scenario. Ones like this one, this is an in-place paving contract. That's a different contract, different rules. And there are several contractors on there that have all been part of the state competitive process. We are free to use, you could negotiate with them, for example, but their pricing all ties back to it. One thing that this vendor did, with this particular contract, there's actually an escalation clause. The state every week publishes an asphalt modifier price, and it roughly tracks petroleum. So you could guess what's happened to that since I started this conversation back in December. They have agreed to cap it because we have 200 grand in the budget. That's going to get approved tomorrow, hopefully. Year 1 of this has 200 grand. They have capped us at 199. So originally we were, that was actually their price to us because we backed in using a square footage rate to get as much of the lot done as we possibly could. When we were through our negotiations here, I'm like, listen, we want to go with you guys and we want to get this done in July. We have to get penciled in on their schedule, but we can't take that escalation risk because if it's $200,001, we can't do the project. And then you've wasted time on your schedule. So they did that for us to keep us moving along. But generally speaking, yes, state contract means there's always been a competitive process and there are rules per contract on how you can use it.
So it's not Ben knows a guy with a steamroller.
If you want to use guys, I know we'll get it done a lot cheaper. No, it's one of the tools in our toolbox. So tonight you're seeing a cross section of a purchasing consortium, a state contract where I've done a mini bid within it, a state contract through an in-place paving contract. You're seeing a true invitation to bid, and you're seeing one through CROG's Easy ITC program. So tonight there's a good cross section of our tools.
Great.
okay, so, obviously, that's one that could be reviewed very quickly if we don't. But anyways, any further questions on that? So item number 14, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Okay. Item number 14 passes. Item number 15, discuss and take action to accept a recommendation from the Facilities Department to award a contract to Dorita and Sons Construction in the amount of $2,820,000 for renovations to the Daniel Hand baseball, field, I should say, and authorizing the first selectman to sign all contracts and documents associated with this award as approved in fiscal year 25-26 and fiscal year 26-27 CIP, CNRE fund, contingent on fiscal year 26-27 budget approval and referendum.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Obviously, I know this has been one of the big public conversation lately, this project, and I just want to talk about a couple of things here. Because first of all, this project actually went into the school facilities plan back in 2017. So it's been 10 years. They've been planning to do this field renewal. It's at the high school. It's not a middle school field. It's for the boys baseball field at the high school. It was submitted with the original budget in 2021 CIP. And then it had some escalation in it, and then it got kind of shuffled around. We talk about the 5-year CIP plan, priorities changed. Many CIP committees and boards of selectmen and board of finance reviewed this project and talked about it. It shuffled around the timing of it. The board of education reviewed it. So this has been a conversation for 10 years. And so from there, when we finally had the funding and it became a priority for them, they finally put it at the top of the list. We went out to bid and we combined it because the girls' softball field need to be re-turf. We've had that turf field since the early 2000s. Then the budget came back, unfortunately, when we went out to bid because we saw a lot of cost escalation in the last couple of years. And so we decided to break the projects apart again. We got the school one. This board had a whole meeting on it last year. We decided to break them apart. And then the school updated the budget based on the bids they had received last year for just the boys field. And then that was submitted to the CIP committee in the fall. It was talked extensively in CIP committee meetings about the fields, right? So there was a lot of discussion, but it went through the process, and it had a lot of vetting and a lot of discussion, and all the issues that are being raised now are all valid issues, but those were also discussed, and the athletic director weighed in, the Board of Education, and so it got to this point where now it needs this remaining funding. There's some funding already allocated from previous years. That's why you see different numbers in different years, because we ended up needing more money to add to the budget. So that's why we are where we are. I think this went through a lot of conversation and there's different views on this, but I think overall it has passed these hurdles every time. So with that, this once again is awarding a contract if the funding becomes available. That's all we're voting on today. And this was the winning bidder through a process that Ben ran. And so he just, once again, timing is critical with athletic fields. And so to be able to hit the ground running, and getting this process moving, it's a limited window when they can do this. That's why we wanted to get the bid award there contingent upon approval from the town for the funds. So if it does not pass tomorrow, that doesn't mean the baseball project won't happen. We'll have conversations. The contract won't be valid. Right? We won't be awarding that contract, but then we will have a conversation because, pulling out this project, the budget just has money that we're putting into the CIP savings account. It is not funding this entire project. And I just want to highlight that for people. There's a lot of money that's been saved up already for this project. So,
And approved, but.
And approved multiple times. So I get it though. It's emotional and some people are just coming into the 11th hour, which often happens. With
And
these
some people
projects.
are new to town since
It's,
this
right?
conversation started in 2017.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But it's been going on the last 2 years, right? And so I think that all valid concerns, that's why we are where we are. And I think, same issue with all we're doing is awarding the contract pending financing available for tomorrow. So those are my comments. If anybody else has some comments on this one.
I think just knowing too that, planning and zoning and the wetlands, all these other boards have approved this already to go forward is an important step.
Yes, they go through a full permitting process, anything that the town does. So, and I know there were a lot of discussions about that as well, and it did go through an approval process. So with that, all in favor of item number 15, say aye.
Aye.
And nay.
Nay.
All right, great. So moving on to item number 16. Discuss and take action to accept a recommendation from the Public Works Department to award contracts to Tyler Equipment Corporation for the, is that your last one?
I'm signing off.
He's out here. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Discuss and take action to accept a recommendation from the Public Works Department to award contracts to Tyler Equipment Corporation for the purchase of a 3-ton Falcon hotbox trailer in the amount not to exceed $62,768 per sourcewell contract. M&H Equipment Services for the purchase of a TFX all-terrain deck with AT Terraflex tracks in the amount not to exceed $25,833.77 for Sourcewell, and then Able Tool and Equipment for the purchase of MC 650 asphalt curb machine in an amount not to exceed $13,873.38, lower of 2 quotes. All funded from town aid road and authorizing the first selectman to sign all contracts and documents associated with these awards.
So moved.
Second. Okay. So this is some equipment that I think has been long overdue. I don't know. I think he is on. Is that the case? Yes, he is. So this is our assistant public works director. I don't think Sam could be here. So Rob, I don't know if you just want to spend a second on the equipment, or does the board have questions on this?
I don't have any questions.
Can we get 2 of those all-terrain lawnmowers and have one of them be in my place?
Anything to add? I know these were things that you've been thinking were really important, and we are able to use town aid road account, which is state funds that we received every year to purchase this type of equipment. So
yes, I mean, I can go over a couple things of why we need this equipment. Answer any questions that there may be. The hot box obviously will help us out tremendously throughout the winter months. This year alone, we saw just after this winter, we saw close to 70 pothole claims. 70 pothole claims. Those are new potholes that are coming up. Those are potholes that, where we cold patch and they come back up. We had 2 insurance claims for bent rims and popped tires. The cost of recycling asphalt, we're spending $110 per ton through Tilcon to purchase asphalt throughout the year. Winter months when they're shut down, all we have is cold patch. Cold patch is running us close to about $900 to $1,000 per pallet, which is about 1.5 tons. You can see alone the cost savings at that point. So having something like a hot box readily available to where, we can head out in the winter months, in the months that Tilcon's closed, and be able to patch these potholes as they come up is really important. We get tons of calls. We're inundated with calls throughout the season, with just constantly requiring fill. Curb machine. In regards to that, we've got every year on average, we're spending about, in the last 3 years, I can say we've spent on average $13,000 per year with contracting out curbing. We have about a minimum of 28 planned areas currently that requires curbing. As you know, driving around town this winter was horrendous, and we have a lot of curbing to replace, unfortunately. And in regards to the mower, yeah, it was the mower that we've got now is a first year design. 7 years later, 6 years later, we're running into a lot of issues. The cost of repairs was tremendous on it, to the point where it's either spend close to what the machine costs versus buying a new one. And as we all know, managing vegetation on 131 miles of roadway, we need these machines out. So definitely very important. I kind of hope that helps everybody in regards to what, the equipment's going to be used for, and why we need it so bad. And if there's any questions, I'm welcome to answer them.
Well, if everybody's good, I think
Makes sense to
we're
me,
good.
Rob.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Right, item number 16 passes. Item number 17, discuss and take action to award a contract between the town of Madison and Northwest Hills Automotive for purchase of a 2026 Chrysler Voyager LX in the amount of $39,676. The senior center using state contract and authorizing the first selectman to settle contracts and taxes associated with this for funded and self-insurance reserve funds. Second. Okay, this is one that was actually totaled in an accident, unfortunately. So so between what we get back from the insurance company, obviously costs for vehicles, have changed. So it was a couple of years old. So and then we're taking the rest from the severance reserve fund. Or no, it's not the severance reserve, self-insurance reserve. Just to make up so they can they use this quite a bit. It's just a minivan that the senior center does a lot of.
They do like appointments for.
Yeah, they do a lot for seniors with that and rather than use bigger buses. So any questions on this? No? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was unfortunate. I think, okay, but yes, it's been. Yeah, it's been that's always. Difficult. And you have that, luckily there was another senior. So.
Right.
Item number 18, discuss and take action to approve using the severance reserve fund to pay for an arbitration award. So.
Second.
Okay, so you have a memo. I think that Ferrante's on. Here she is. She could spend a minute explaining this. This is kind of a holdover from a situation, we dealt with last year, or 2 years ago, I think now. So go ahead, Deb.
So this is the last of the 3 police officers that was terminated in September of 2022. And we received the award in August of 23. And we've been in negotiations and mediation because he was looking to see if there was any additional payments that could be received. And there wasn't, but it's taken this long for him to accept the payment. And so we are at that point now where we received word through the attorneys that he had requested payment for the back wages. And that's what we are paying him.
So, so this just kind of clears up what we were required to do through an arbitration award for that process.
Perfect.
So it kind of gets it off the books, which would be great. So, any further questions?
Nope.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, great.
Thanks, Deb.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
To item number 19, I think is citizens' comments. Do we have any hands raised? There's no one here left in the room. They all are home.
Ricketts in the room.
So.
There is one hand raised. Hold on. Go ahead, Amy.
Hi, thank you. This is Amy Thomas, resident at 34 River Edge Farms Road. I've been listening. I understand the power is in the people's hands and the vote tomorrow, which Bruce and Jen, thank you. I appreciate that. But I still wanted to voice my opposition as a resident to the artificial turf field. I know there were comments made earlier. Just wanted to reiterate the amount of toxic chemicals and carcinogens that are in artificial turf and the impacts those have on the community, whether it's our kids, our players, the staff and fans, or we're talking about the wildlife and the environmental impacts of the community. It just seems so egregious and the expense is so outrageous. I'm frankly surprised these fields are still being made. I appreciate that this project has been in the works for 10 years, but I do think that in that time, the knowledge and awareness of what is in artificial turf and how detrimental it is clearer and clearer. So I feel like it's irresponsible to be considering these things, particularly at a cost of over $3 million. Thank you.
For your comment? Do we have any other hands raised, Jeannie?
No, you do not.
With that then, and then we have already tabled, the executive session, with that, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So.
All in favor, say aye. Okay, great. All right, thank you.